Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamila Mizik. Thanks for joining us. A look at the first 6 months of the current fiscal year indicate a revenue boost of $129.5 million, a 14.7% improvement when compared to how the figure stacked up in the corresponding period of fiscal year 2017-2018. Behind the improvement, higher receipts of value-added tax coupled with an almost threefold increase in stamp duties on financial and realty transactions. The government did, however, lose out on $10 million due to the delayed introduction of the gaming patron tax. A breakdown of the numbers show a deferment of new gaming taxes led to another delayed revenue of $15 million. However, the government anticipates that the full impact of the 12% VAT rate will not be recorded until the second half of the year, a typically stronger revenue period. This considering several annual fees like business, banks, and trust companies' licenses are due. On the flip side, expenditures also up. Behind this, a $93.9 million increase in recurrent revenue and a $44.1 million decrease in capital expenditure. Officials blame the inflation on the extraordinary booking of $55.2 million for the $100 million Bahamas Resolve promissory note to the Bank of the Bahamas. Well, the opposition made it clear yesterday that it was not supporting two resolutions that in the end were passed. One of them, a $30 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank to finance its digital transformation to strengthen the country's competitiveness program. The other, a standby loan facility from the IDB in the amount of $100 million. This would be used to alleviate the impact a severe or catastrophic natural disaster could have on the country's finances. Exuma MP Chester Cooper telling the House members yesterday that while the opposition supports the needs for both, it does not support the resolution.
We don't have a full sense as to what's been done with all the funds already borrowed by this government. This government has said over and repeatedly that we sit on a fiscal cliff. You've said the cupboard is bare. You've said the PLP has borrowed too much. And now this. We will not support. The reality on the ground is that people are hurting. They do not believe that their life is any better off now than it was in May 2017.
Now, in the face of requesting more money, Mr. Cooper says he's confident that come next week when legislators discuss the fiscal strategy report, the government will stress the need to borrow less.
I am confident that when we get into discussion on the mid-year budget, which comes soon in a matter of a few weeks, we anticipate that this government will lay out the answers to the questions that the Bahamian people are asking. What has happened now? What has happened so far with all of the money borrowed to date?
The government has an online presence of 400 services, that is, forms that may be obtained online. As the Prime Minister explained, these forms must be printed, completed, and then physically delivered to the relevant government ministry or department. Of that 400, 14 are actually online services, but may require the user to visit more than one site. The Prime Minister acknowledged that this does not translate into ease of doing business. The World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index 2018 ranks the Bahamas as 118th of 190 countries. Meantime, over in the upper chamber, that land resolution seeking approval for the conveyance of 1.267 acres in the Fox Hill community up for debate. The property, which sits on Romer and Umbrisha Streets, is to be divided into 10 service lots to be sold to first-time homeowners. The price tags pegged at the same amount as those sold in Sunset Close, and that's around $20,000. Homeowners could either use their own contractor and architect or pre-existing housing plan. Here's F&M Senator Dion Folks stressing the importance of owning a home.
It leads to a very stable society in terms of our social environment. It also gives ownership of a piece of the rock in their country. You have the inheritance law, which you can pass the home or the property on to children and consequently on to grandchildren. And it also helps with business development. A lot of us who might want to go into business, when we approach a financial institution, the first thing what they want to know is what collateral do you have to put up to borrow the monies needed?
Seconding the resolution, former Fox Hill MP Wanian Dorset encouraged Fox Hillians to take advantage of the opportunity to reestablish the type of bond in that community and to get rid of some of the negative influences. But opposition Senator Jobeth Colby Davis finds the government's housing program woefully inadequate, under-resourced, if not non-existent.
It is my understanding that the housing waiting list is in excess of 7,000 persons. But almost 2 years later, all this F&M government could show is that they offered 30 service lots. What is also unique about this inept government is that they are in this place and the other place bragging about teaching a man to fish by only providing service lots instead of building homes. Whilst they're programmed to sell the lots to Bahamians, leave the Bahamian to the market to find a suitable contractor.
The government plans to carry out a similar exercise in Carmichael and the Family Islands, namely Andros, Abaco, San Salvador, and Eleuthera. No real change in the Bahamas' ranking on the latest Corruption Perception Index, and experts have found that's the case with the majority of countries, a disturbing trend that's reportedly contributing to a crisis in democracy worldwide. JCN's Leah Cooper tells us where the Bahamas stands and why.
From 28 to 29, based on a scale of 0 to 100, that's where the Bahamas now sits in terms of its perceived levels of public sector corruption. And this, according to the experts behind Transparency International's latest Corruption Perception Index. 0 signifying highly corrupt and 100 very clean. Transparency International found that most English-speaking Caribbean countries scored exactly the same as last year, showing what it called complete stagnation. It added that despite the current administrations in Barbados, Jamaica, and the Bahamas, which rose to power on bold anti-corruption platforms, any visible improvements are still limited. To stop corruption, it was recommended that countries strengthen institutions and preserve checks and balances, close the implementation gap between anti-corruption legislation, practice, and enforcement, empower citizens to speak out and hold governments accountable, and protect press freedoms so no journalist has fear for their lives when reporting on corruption. The Minister administration campaigned hard on stamping out corruption. In pursuit of this, several people have been investigated by the Anti-Corruption Unit and subsequently charged with related crimes. Now, last year, results of a nationwide poll by market and opinion research firm Public Domain showed that 54% of respondents believe the level of corruption increased in the country between October 2016 and October 2017. I'm Leah Cooper.
Now, it's important to note that no country got a perfect score. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.